are disrupting the enterprise. We also have a slight disruption to the judging list. You've probably got a judging list in your program, but it's all wrong. So I'm going to tell you who we have. Please welcome to the stage our wonderful expert panel of judges. We have Beth Comstock from GE, Scott Harrison from Charity Water, Greg Seng from Tagged, Sanya Venkachalan from Skype, and Mike Walrath from Moat. Big round of applause for all of those. You can sit anywhere except the black one, because that's my special Death Star chair. Yeah, I've also been given this line because apparently I wander, so I have to stay behind this line. So if anyone watches and notices me go over, please do tell me. All right, so this is really scary. All right, so we're gonna kick off. We have, yep, you can see the companies up there. We have one additional one to your list. We have Invoice ASAP or Invoice ASAP. I don't have the startup founder's name, so I'm going to look like an idiot when they come out, but never mind. Why stop now? All right, so we are disrupting the enterprise. I don't know who's coming out first. I think it's Thinkfuse, but maybe I can get a slide. It is Thinkfuse. So please welcome to the stage from Thinkfuse, Aidin Ganjar and Steve Krenzel, co-founders and CEO of Thinkfuse. Big round of applause for them.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Who here has ever worked for a big company? A lot of you have. I have too. One of the things I remember doing is writing status reports. And a lot of companies, it's just a part of life. We don't always call them status reports. Sometimes they're project updates or meeting minutes. And let's be honest, sometimes they're a pain in the ass, right? But we all write regular communications to groups of people. The problem is that these communications that are loaded with valuable business information are sent by email from one person to another, and the rest of the company can't access them. As a result, decisions are less informed, work is duplicated, and ultimately, companies lose money because of this. Thinkfuse solves this problem. Let's take a look. To get started, all we need to know is who you want status reports from, when you want them, and what information they should include. So a manager with 5 people working for her starts by creating an account. She enters the email addresses for her employees. She chooses the schedule, in this case, Friday afternoon, and selects a template to outline what information she wants her reports to include. And she's done. 30 seconds and her life is already easier. In fact, we have existing beta users who've done nothing more than these 3 simple steps, who rave about how much they love Thinkfuse. Already their status reports are more consistent than they've ever been. They're more timely. They're shared among all the people on their team. And best of all, the managers don't have to be the bad guy harassing people to write reports, because Thinkfuse does that for them. So I'd like to tell you about Sarah. Sarah's a project manager at a large construction management firm, and she writes a weekly update to the stakeholders in her project. Here she is on her Thinkfuse homepage. She clicks on New Report to write a report, selects which one she wants to write, and starts typing. You can see that it looks a lot like email. But on the right-hand side is a list of recipients. Now before, Sarah would have to manually copy and paste a long list of email addresses week after week. Inevitably, someone would get left out and miss important information. Now she manages this list in one easy place on Thinkfuse. But more interestingly, each of these people can follow a project just as easily as they can follow someone on Twitter. Let's take a look. We'll search for a project, click through to what we're looking for, and select Follow. Sarah is now going to receive a weekly update on this project and access all the previous reports on Thinkfuse. So when we look at this information, what we're looking at is a unique class of communication inside of a company. While email is meant to be private, going from point to point, status reports are really designed to be shared. And when you look at them across an entire company, you can start to map the relationships between people and projects. I'm talking about the business graph. We're all familiar with Facebook and the social graph and the value they've created by mapping the relationships between friends. Using status reports, we're mapping the relationships between people and projects in a company. Not just an org chart showing who reports to whom, but the real, changing, day-to-day relationships between what people are working on and who they're working on it with. Let's look at one example of how Thinkfuse helps you leverage that information. Today, when Sarah needs to find an engineer with expertise in a particular technology in her own company, or maybe someone with a relationship with a client, her company has that information, but she can't access it because it's stuck in someone else's inbox. So instead, she can come to Thinkfuse when she's looking for an engineer with expertise in solar power systems and start by searching for engineers to identify all the engineers in her company. She'll then search across all of the status reports these people have submitted to see which of them has been working on solar power systems. She'll click through to a profile, read the most recent status report to see if it contains the information she needs, and contact this person with a request. Let's look at another example. Steve is a sales manager in Sarah's company, and she needs to talk to someone on his team with with a relationship with Acme Corporation. She starts by searching for Steve. You can see that she can bring up either his direct or extended team. And then again, by looking across the recently submitted status reports, she can see which of them is working with Acme. And the last step, since she's here in New York, she wants to know which of them is in the New York office so she can schedule a meeting. So think about all of the data that's captured in status reports across 1,000 inboxes in your company. It's a giant puzzle where each person has only their little piece. Does finance really get why operations is over budget? How often is sales out of sync with engineering? The single most important driver to achieving a shared goal isn't good management. It's not team morale. It's not even your planning process. Those things are important, but they're secondary to each person understanding the entire puzzle and where their pieces fit in. Thinkfuse provides this understanding by making status reports more accessible, by making them more consistent, and more powerful to align people and resources across an organization. Thinkfuse will be available later this summer. Please go to thinkfuse.com to sign up for our beta. My name is Aideen Rajar, and I look forward to speaking with you out in the alley. Thank you.
That was Thinkfuse, everyone. AOL will fucking love that. Team morale is secondary, that's right. All right, so who wants to jump in with thoughts on Thinkfuse?
I have a question for you. I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
No, just in big companies, they still use email by and large.
Yes.
This is yet another step in the workflow. How do you see people working that into an already overloaded set of systems, whether it's email or other applications?
That's a great question. Oh, are you taking that?
Yeah. Drink.
No, I'll take it. So absolutely. So one of the things that we want to do is work really closely with email. So when that manager sets up reminders and people receive a reminder to write a status report, they can just reply to that, send it to our alias, and distribute that automatically to their whole team. And then their whole team will receive emails on that status report. In fact, with our current beta, we have about 60 status reports written every week and about 400 people that are receiving them, a lot of them only interacting with it over email. So we're really trying to find something that companies already do, work with an existing workflow, and require very minimal change in behavior.
Mike?
Yeah, so my reaction to this is this seems like exactly the sort of thing that a company like Yahoo would love to use. It would quadruple or quintuple the amount of status reports being written every week, but at least they would be accessible to everyone, and the kind of thing that would make me want to, when I worked there, jump in a bathtub with a radio in my lap.
Yeah.
But that means it's probably a good idea. So the fact that I hate it is probably a good thing.
That is the metric of a good idea.
Yeah.
Does it make you want to electrocute yourself in a bathtub? Yeah.
So my question is who are you going to charge and how are you going to sell it?
Yeah. So we're planning to use a freemium subscription. There's a natural virality to status reports, since as soon as one user starts using it and sending out emails from us to their entire company, we want to capture that growth and make that basic process free. But we want to charge for enterprise features like advanced security, user management, some of the more interesting analytics that we're going to add later on.
Okay. So if you had presented this 3 years ago, I think it would have been really interesting and innovative, but there's probably 50 to 70 companies doing something similar now for enterprise. You know, Yammer came out a few years ago. Google Wave came and failed. A lot of startups, a lot of big companies. So what's actually different? Because none of them are actually able to get that much traction.
That's a great question. So a couple of things. There's definitely a wave of social sort of media applications for enterprise. And one of the problems with that is that a real-time news feed can't be trusted for business-critical information. You post something on your Yammer feed, by the end of the day it's gone, and you can't reliably use that as a communication tool for important project updates. The other thing is, again, what I talked about earlier with requiring a minimum change in behavior. So
what about Google Wave? They solved all of that, and
I think Google Wave tried to do a lot, right? That's why we're coming out with a specific tool to solve a problem with status reports and not trying to be too broad of a hammer, right?
Greg?
I have a couple questions. One is, do you guys have any sort of privacy settings? So if I send a status report to my exec team, I don't necessarily want everyone in the company to be able to access that. And the second question is, talk more about distribution. And is it really just going to work with virality, or are you going to need to supplement it with other sort of distribution methods?
So, first question. Okay. So,
I'd love to answer those.
Privacy settings.
Privacy settings, absolutely. So any project out of the... Okay. Well, we're planning on having 3 settings initially for any project. So it can be private only to the people that are explicitly invited, or it can be set to within a domain, or more public where you can share it across domains.
Gotcha. Okay.
And your second question was distribution?
On distribution.
Out of the gates, we're hoping to be a standalone application, but integration with other enterprise applications is definitely on the roadmap.
Okay.
So I hear you talking about this being a tool for big companies. How big do you think a company needs to be for this to work for them? So go for it.
It's not just for big companies. We've seen, so actually being a startup, we've got a community of startups who are actually using it to send, 2-man startups who are sending monthly updates to their investors and advisors, and that's actually been pretty successful. And so we're also seeing a couple of consultants who send weekly updates on projects to clients, and which is kind of cool because we also get the intercompany virality that way as well, not just intra-company. So we're immediately useful to just a team of 2 to 5 people, because you can, have everybody on the same page in kind of a quick way of get everybody, a couple bullet points what you did this week, a couple bullet points what you did last week, and that's, or what you're going to do next week, and that's already a good starting point. And then the effects like the business graph kind of stuff we're talking about and the people search comes out of when you have a bunch of different groups together in aggregate using it for that very specific purpose. In the case of like a project manager, they get immediate value by moving the responsibility of managing the recipient list. So instead of copy pasting, as we mentioned, and so we see some project managers who are happy that they're no longer having to manually add and remove people from the list of recipients every week. So there's a whole bunch of benefits right out of the gate, which is why we started with the status report concept.
Any more questions? Yeah?
You talked about a business graph and trying to map people and who are the influencers and experts, which is a real problem. But you didn't talk at all about how you do that. Do you have any special algorithms or?
So there's a natural amount of data that we collect just based on who's following which projects. And initially we're using rich text. Like you write status reports on email, we want you to be able to write status reports on Thinkfuse the same way, so we're using search. But over time, there's some opportunities to collect more structured data off of that input. For example, when you enter someone's name or enter a project name, we can recognize that and give you a quick UI that says, did you mean this project, and yes or no, and start to collect more structured data to enable that.
Yeah, there's also the opportunity for a lot of things like we've heard requests for traffic lights, work item tracking, action items for meeting minutes, like the whole ecosystem of existing planning and tracking tools out there. We're focused on communication, and so we would like to, as people evolve into using our system, start with something they're comfortable with, email-like rich text, and then grow to have a whole bunch of different widgets that are designed to have more structured information that links together projects, external systems, other stuff, make a big old, plug in all sorts of different types of data, and then you can create roll-ups and other aggregate information from there.
Okay, we're out of time, so a big round of applause for Thinkfuse. Alrighty, so we're going to move quickly on, so hopefully we don't run over today, but we will. So please welcome